Hi, this is Terry Glaze, and you're listening to Drag the Water.
Drag the water some more, like never before. Drag the water some more. With Joshua.
It is now time to drag the water some more, and I am your host, Joshua Toomey. This is the debut episode of this All Pantera podcast. This week we talked to Terry Glaze, original Pantera vocalist. He was on I Am the Night. He was on Projects in the Jungle. He was on Metal Magic. He gave us a lot of great stories, a lot of great insight into the early days of Pantera. And once again, I could not ask for a better guest for the debut episode of Drag the Waters. Make sure you are letting your Pantera-loving friends know about this show. Let's spread the word and let everyone know that you are listening to Drag the Waters, the Pantera podcast. Pantera needs a podcast. Kiss has 1,000 podcasts. There are a bunch of Metallica podcasts, Beatles podcasts, Monkees podcast, and now we have a Pantera podcast. What I would like to do on this show, too, is to go into the archives of my normal show, Talk To Me, and pull some clips of my favorite artists talking about Pantera, repurpose some of that audio, and give it out to you. So, to go back into the Wayback Machine, let's go back to a time when I spoke to Max Cavalera about Dimebag Darrell, and this is what he had to say. What are your memories of touring with Dimebag or just being around him?
Great guy, awesome. I'm sure almost everybody has the same things to say about him. I don't think anybody has ever anything bad to say about Dimebag. I never read or came across anybody with negative shit to say about Dimebag. I mean, he was just a loving life kind of guy and ready to party. He was ready to party in the morning. I remember going on tours with Sepultura first, and was 10 in the morning, and we were doing shots, and that just carry on throughout the whole day, and carry on throughout the time we play, and afterwards, when Pantera was playing, then I get shots from his roadie on the side of the stage watching them, and but he was a great guy, one of a few guys actually remember my birthday on tour, and he gave me a pair of camouflage pants that I keep it very in a special place now. It's very symbolic, and it's funny because they're very new wave colors. They're like really bright yellow, and he even told me when he gave me, he's like, "Hey Max, this is really new wave color kind of pants, but I think you'll dig it, brother." And so yeah, he was a fun guy, man. Like a lot of great memories with him. And one of the other cool things about him that I always is close to my heart is after I left Sepultura, I went back to Soulfly, and we went back to do some tours, and we're going back to some shitholes that when I left Sepultura, we were on the top and we were playing big places. When I started Soulfly, we had to go back to the shitholes, and in the Texas when we played Dallas in this little shithole that he was, man. He was there the first time we played. He came to the show to support, which doesn't happen a lot. A lot of times when you're hot, everybody comes to see you, but when you're not hot, nobody shows up. That's the normal way of things. But not for Dimebag. He came to the shithole to see us, and it was real, real awesome. And I carry that really close to my heart forever, which was great. Great. It just shows it was a true friend,
Very cool story from Max Cavalera. Make sure to go check out that interview and all my interviews over on the Talk To Me podcast. And just once again, thank you guys for checking out this episode of Drag the Waters. Rate, review, share it, spread the word. And it is now time to drag the waters with Terry Glaze. All right, guys, it's now time to drag the waters some more with Terry Glaze, former vocalist of Pantera. Terry, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm doing well, man. I've been in a deep dive of those early Pantera records. People love that early stuff. They love what you did with the band.
Yeah, it was a long time ago, but it was the beginning. But when you have that much talent in the band with with Daryl and Vince and Rex, it helps you grow quick.
Just kind of getting into the band, and how did you meet those guys? How did you meet Vinny and Dime and those guys?
Vince was in the same high school class with me, and I had a band with my friend Tommy Bradford, a bass player. We had a band with a drummer, and he was okay, but Vince was the best drummer in the school, and we wanted to jam with him, and he was so good. And so the three of us got together and jammed some instrumental Rush in my garage.
Nice.
And we all liked it so much. And the deal, we kind of made a deal where Vince would agree to join our band and take our singer, Donnie Hart. Back then, if you had a PA, you were the singer.
Right.
And the deal was he would agree to take our singer if we would agree to take his little brother who was in middle school. And Daryl was, this young kid, and we didn't want to hear about it. He was some young kid. He wasn't in high school with us. But we wanted to play with Vince so bad that we said yes. And it was the best decision we ever had in our life. So we got together, the five of us, and I played guitar and Daryl played guitar. And also their father was a recording engineer in a local recording studio. And we knew that. So immediately we started writing little originals and learning how to do it. And when you start off, you're influenced by the bands that you really like. So early on, our songs sounded like it,
Yeah.
and you're learning how to do the process of recording. You're learning your craft. And so that's kind of the very beginning, playing parties, and playing skating rinks and school auditoriums. And that was our going into our senior year. So I guess that was our junior year in high school. So the five of us started playing. That'd have been like 80, 81.
So yeah, junior year high school, trying to bring on a kid from middle school. I mean, your worlds apart at that time, even though you might have been, just like 4 years apart age wise, but middle
2 years.
Oh, 2
I think
years.
we were 11th grade high school,
Uh-huh.
and he was in middle school, I think, so he must have been in 9th grade.
Oh, okay, right.
High school started in 10. So Daryl was at the local junior high, and we were in 11th grade. It's funny, too, going into our senior year, Tommy Bradford, the original bass player, he left the band because he wanted to be a drum major in the high school band. So that's how we ended up bringing Rex Brown in. Rex went to the local, the high school one over. And that's when Rex came in our senior year.
So there were a lot of stories in the book also about, just Dime kind of over the summer becoming an amazing guitar player. What are your recollections on that?
I remember Daryl, back then there was no YouTube. When we wanted to learn something, we would listen to make a tape off of the radio or play. I think CDs were just about to come out back then. And I remember, I don't know exactly which year it was, but Daryl went in his room and kind of started woodshedding. And about 6 months later, he kind of emerged fully formed.
Right.
And from then on, he was Daryl. He went on and started, I think he won 2 or 3 guitar contests, local guitar contests. And he was so much better than everyone else that they pretty much made him a judge.
Right.
But even at that, we're playing bars. I'm 16, 17. Daryl's 14, 15. Drinking age in Texas back then was 18.
Okay.
So lots of teenage girls with fake IDs. It was the Wild West. It was crazy wild.
That's the one thing on all of the the albums that you appear on. Even when Dime goes into solos, you can still hear that it's Dime playing, even though it was 81, 82, 83, somewhere in there. So it's just crazy that even through the progression of Pantera into the 90s, Dime's playing honestly didn't change a whole lot when it came into his solos, and you can still pinpoint that that's Dime playing on the early records.
I agree 100%. The main difference is just the style of the singing, especially by the second vinyl projects. I played guitar on the first album with Daryl, and by the second album, I just sang because he was such a monster. Our style, the music that we were influenced from back then, you're listening to your heroes like Motley Crue and Iron Maiden and Def Leppard, and that style they just kept evolving. But really, the guitar playing, and I would say the drumming too, it's very consistent.
Oh yeah,
Vince and Daryl have that tone from the very beginning. I don't really hear that much difference in. You can tell it's Daryl immediately. Yes.
How old were you when you guys put out Metal Magic?
I don't know. I don't know when that record is. 83, 84, something.
Yeah, 83, I believe.
So I'm born in 64, so I would have been 18.
Wow. So, I mean, just basically coming out of your first album you put out, you guys put it out on vinyl. What was it like for you to be 18 and holding your own record?
As you would imagine,
yeah,
it was awesome. We did the records so we could, have merchandise to sell off the bandstand. And to be a lead vocalist in a heavy metal band in the 80s, it's just like every night was like Van Halen.
Right.
It was amazing. And then you have the best guitar player on the planet, or one of them, even though he's a teenager, it was obvious. Daryl was, incredible from the very early on. So it was a great feeling to know you had the best band behind you. A lot of confidence.
In going down the rabbit hole of those early albums, it seems like there was a huge jump from Metal Magic to Projects in the Jungle. And I think of the three, I think Projects is probably my favorite. What are your memories of putting that one together?
We probably recorded 20, 30, 40 originals before we put out a vinyl. So you're learning how to do it. And then you put out the first one, and we don't, we're learning as we're going. And then we play. And by the time we got to that second album, we had started to figure out what we wanted to do. And I think by then you can totally hear Motley Crue coming through that record a lot. Now, the difference between Projects and I Am the Night, the way I remember it, I believe was when we met Metallica. Yeah. And so you hear that influence coming in. We all went to go see Metallica, their first tour through Texas, I believe. I think we all drove out to Tyler, Texas, I think. Saw them at the local college,
right.
Whatever. But that was a big influence. That was on that was in the cassette deck of the vehicle a lot, listening to that first Metallica.
There's some famous photos from that time, and it looks like Lars and James go to Dime's house or someone's house. They're all playing. Do you know the story behind those photos?
That's Daryl's house.
Yeah.
They came to hang out in Arlington at least twice that I know of. They'd go jam. I was over there a little bit, but they hung out and jammed all the time. Daryl and James hit it off famous.
Yeah.
So getting together and jamming and all that stuff, they came out and hung out a bit. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, great to see those guys that early on in their career also. So, I mean, the power of all the bands that would eventually come out of that room is pretty nuts, man. With I Am the Night,
gosh.
Did you guys ever get close to getting signed back then that you know of?
We had people come out to see us, but no, not that I ever, nothing that was serious.
Okay. Yeah, it just seems like, the music was there and the vocals, it seemed like everything, the package was there. So I don't understand, what, it was of the time kind of thing. Yeah.
I don't think we were the only successful heavy metal band, though, that was putting records out themselves and doing everything themselves. You would see a lot of the bands doing very similar things on tiny little labels. The main difference was we were our own label.
Right. The long-standing story with these the pre-Cowboys from Hell era albums not getting re-released in any kind of way, it was always said that Vince kind of had a strong hold on that, and there was a no there. So, is there any talks ever of these albums being kind of packaged and repackaged and put back out?
Well, it would be amazing to share that music with the rest of the world. I think everybody would really be interested in listening, especially listening to Daryl's guitar playing. With the loss of Daryl and Vince, I guess it would come down to their father and Rex. I do not know where I don't have possession of the master tapes.
Right.
And with Vince gone, it'd be a great thing for the fans. I'd love to be part of that. But as of right now, I haven't spoken to Jerry Abbott or Rex about it.
Yeah, it would be great to get it out for everybody to get a good copy of it. I mean, obviously they're all over YouTube and you can listen to it, but I mean, there's some rough copies on YouTube. So yeah, if you could find the masters to these early albums, strip them down and actually get in there and mix them well and get them back out to everybody, I think it would be a beautiful thing for everybody.
You could also include the fourth one, Power Metal with Phil. Put all four together in a box.
Yeah.
Daryl and the rhythm section and the guitars, bass, drums, and guitars are consistent through the whole project, and you could see the growth through them. It'd be really cool. I would love to help out in that in any way I could, but we'll see. Hopefully someday.
Yeah, it would be great. Were you aware of Phil before he joined Pantera?
No.
So I didn't know if you guys had crossed paths beforehand.
The thing about being in Pantera, we played so much, which was our choice too. We never saw other bands because we were always playing. So it was every weekend somewhere. So we really weren't paying attention to what other people were doing. I mean, the only people we were paying attention to were bands like Van Halen and freaking Black Sabbath and, things like that. We weren't paying attention really to the younger bands, I don't think. I don't remember anyway.
Did you leave the band on good terms, or were you just kind of fed up with the kind of the dynamic of the two Abbott brothers and their dad?
Yeah, a lot of times you hear those things where they'll say musical differences.
Yeah.
I don't remember any musical differences. The 2 hours of the day that we were on stage was the best, which you hear that from a lot of touring bands. It was the other 22 hours of the day that was tough to get on. And ultimately, there were 4 guys in the band, plus their father was the manager. And 3 of the 5 had the same last name, and they never split their vote. So you didn't really have any say. And so that ultimately started to wear, and ultimately I just chose to go in a different direction. But it was not, I loved the music and I loved playing with all of them, especially Daryl. So if that answers it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Did Lord Tracy sign before Pantera did?
I believe so.
I would assume that you were excited that you got signed kind of before the other guys did, I would think.
I think I found that out years later, because once again, I was so busy. I actually didn't even really, I wasn't really checking on what everybody else was doing.
Right.
I was so focused on my band. I did find that out later, but it was really, as you can imagine, it was a great day, the day to get signed to a major. And ultimately, both of us signed deals, and we even ran into each other a couple times out on the road.
What were your thoughts of power metal into Cowboys and things? I know you had to check it out, and just kind of hearing the progression of the band, kind of from being there from the start.
I'll say that my favorite album is Vulgar Display. And I remember Daryl came out to see us, Lord Tracy, in Dallas at the Basement. And after the show, we went out in his limo, and he had a cassette of a rough of a Vulgar Display. And he played me Mouth for War. And Daryl's in the limo, air guitaring to Mouth for War. And that's my best moment of that stuff, because it was so incredible. And it was so Van Halen, and it was so badass. And that's my favorite moment. Daryl, I think, jumped up on stage in one of our gigs and freaking stage dived, and it was real cool. Always great to see Daryl.
You ran into Phil. It was roughly on the Far Beyond Driven tour. You go out to the thing, and Phil says something to you along the lines of now I see why you left, and I can't handle them either. I got the impression that he could talk to you because you were kind of in the same spot he was.
I remember that moment exactly. He said something very close to that, which was even a little more descriptive. And I felt the same thing. It was like two guys who had been in the same club that didn't have to explain anything to each other. But freaking amazing band. Phil's great at what he does. And that was a cool moment to kind of connect with him, because I don't have any relationship with Phil at all, you know.
Right.
So it was pretty cool.
As the band continued to go on, continued to you know, just play arenas and stadiums and sheds and, you know, everything that they were doing. You know, were you ever, you know, look back on it and, you know, maybe a little bit, I don't know, necessarily jealous is the word, but just kind of bummed that you left that, you know, left that unit?
Well, I mean, things have worked out really well for me. I'm very blessed. And, you know, you see things like the one thing they did that I was always just looked at and just shook my head was playing Moscow. Just amazing. And not bummed out, but very happy for them. But they did some amazing things. It's such a tragedy that they're not with us anymore. But I have no complaints about the way everything worked out.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I've played in bands throughout the years too, and I've played with guys that have went on to play giant arenas type stuff, and I go and you're kind of like, man, I wish I was doing that, but at the same time, you also kind of are very proud. You know, it's almost like the home team won kind of thing.
Well, like I said, very lucky to be just a tiny portion of the history of that band, but I'm very proud of the stuff we did.
And then obviously as time goes on, you know, the band breaks up, and then, you know, the tragedy of Columbus, Ohio, which is where you were born. So it's kind of an odd circle of life there, you know, where it's where you were born, it's where Dime was, you know, had passed. Did you ever, you know, kind of think about that? Like, man, not my hometown kind of thing.
It was really weird. You know, I think both of us had played that bar, that room multiple times. And, it's just an awful feeling every day. I remember, you know, my friend Buddy Glaze heard about it the night and called me, woke me up. And then we were all on the phone, you know, trying to find out what's going on. And just, you know, one of those moments that you remember where you were when you heard.
Well, I definitely do too. Yeah. I had some friends that were in the Soulfly camp, and months earlier, I had gotten word that Phil had died, and that this wasn't the drug overdose, and it was just another time, and then it ended up being a hoax. So a couple months later, you know, I start hearing, you know, rumblings around midnight that Dime has been murdered, and that was back when like the internet was still, it was fresh. And I remember just refreshing like CNN over and over, and then finally it popped up, and just losing, you know, a part of myself, even though, you know, I was never a part of the band, but I met Dime tons of times over the years, and he was always great to the fans. And I always say, man, if you met Dime and you walked away like you had just met your best friend.
He was genuinely like that. The thing about Pantera, especially Daryl, Vince too, but it was like hanging with a professional wrestler, you know,
yeah,
24/7, and he never came out of character, and he was just so like that, and it was pretty amazing. Daryl would give you the guitar or the shirt right off his back.
Oh yeah, I've definitely been around a lot of that stuff. And then obviously with Vince passing a couple of years ago, you know, that was tough too. And actually I had just seen him a couple of months earlier in the band Hell Yeah when they came through town, and I was talking to him afterwards, and man, he was holding court, telling all these great stories. Actually, he had just played Columbus, Ohio for the first time, so he was kind of recapping, you know, how that night went. And yeah, it was great to get to hang out with him. And then, you know, obviously a few months later, you know, he passes away too, so that was a tough loss for the metal community.
Same thing. I remember where I was. I got a phone call late, you know, and then you just start calling the people on the inside of that, you know, circle, trying to get a confirmation, and you find out, you know, sadly, you find out it's confirmed, just like with Daryl. Just awful night.
When would you say the last time you saw Dime was before he passed?
I don't remember. I remember the last time I saw Vince. It was right after Damage Plan came out, like in December, as it just came out. He came out to see me I think it's Curtain Club in Dallas, and he hung out afterwards. They had just got back from Europe, I think, and he came back. He came and we were talking, and he said that Daryl was fried and he had passed out, and we had talked about possibly getting together sometime soon. And I remember walking away from that meeting hoping that the possibility would happen that maybe we'd get to jam again someday. And then next time, and then pretty quick after that, Daryl was gone.
Oh, wow. Did you keep a relationship with Pantera after you left the band? Were they, when they were in town, maybe give you a call, or how did that relationship continue over time?
No, I don't think there was anything behind it. They were just busy trying to move on with theirs, and I was busy with mine. It wasn't intentional, but Lord Tracy, I got with those guys about 1 or 2 weeks later. Not intentionally, it just happened. I just found myself in the right place in the right time with the right group of guys. And so there was no looking back. But there wasn't anything behind it. I think we were both just busy.
Were the Pantera kind of antics, were they always there throughout the, the first 3 albums? Yeah, as in like, just being goofy and fun off the stage, and, where they became notorious for, making people eat cakes for money and all this other stuff?
We destroyed a lot of hotel rooms. We did a lot of awful things, all in the name of fun. And back then it was crazy. I wouldn't do some of that stuff now, but back then it just seemed the right thing to do after you're trying to emulate Van Halen and all your rock star heroes. So, same thing with music, you're learning as you go.
And then after Pantera, you obviously go into Lord Tracy and you do a few other things. Are you currently doing any kind of music right now?
I've been working on a bunch of projects right now during the pandemic,
right? Trying
to take advantage and be creative since we can't play live gigs. So been a lot of recording, a lot of writing, a lot of mixing. I'm working on multiple projects right now. Over the last few years, I've put out a couple records with my band called Raised by Gods. That's a duo with my drummer friend, Mike Harrington. And I put out a couple solo pieces on solo singles on iTunes. And then right now, I'm working on a project in Dallas includes the bass player from Lord Tracy. Kenley Wolf played bass on it. And let's see, that's going on. There's a new song I'm working on with some incredible musicians right now. I can talk to them about it later once I get it mixed. But I brought in some of my most favorite musicians on the planet on a song that I'm working on right now. There's also the project that I had after Lord Tracy. We had recorded a bunch of songs out in LA, and those songs are being mixed right now out on the West Coast for another new project. And so there's a lot of new stuff going on right now that I'm working on right now. So very excited be able to be creative right now.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of people are sitting at home trying to find something to do. So I'm glad to hear that you're keeping busy. As we kind of wrap this up, man, what's one great memory you have of those early years? Just being on tour and just those runs you guys would do, and just those basically residencies that you would do, playing. We
played so much, and Texas is so huge.
Oh, I know.
We could make a cycle and play all over the state. But some of the greatest gigs I remember, we played Six Flags twice. We played outdoor concert that was incredible. Then later we played an indoor concert at Six Flags that was it was rock star stuff. It was amazing. There was another gig we did at the Bronco Bowl with a band called Taker. And I think Lightning opened the show. That was just, it was just unbelievably amazing gigs. You have, one of the greatest bands playing behind you. You have one of the greatest guitar players, Daryl, playing beside you, and the confidence and feeling lucky every day to be able to be in a band with those guys. It It was just the greatest feeling.
Were you in the band when Dave Mustaine came calling for Dime?
We opened for Megadeth in Houston.
Okay.
And we were really at our peak then. And I found out later, I guess, that that Mustaine wanted Daryl, but Daryl made it. It was a package deal. It had to be Daryl and his brother.
Yeah.
So, I think Daryl made the right choice, though.
Well, Dave Mustaine came out saying that the reason he didn't take Dime and Vinny was because he had already offered the gig to Nick Menza, and that he was calling both of them back to back. And had he called Dime first, he probably would have taken Vince and Dime together, which sounds insane to me, but
it sounds insane to me too. If Daryl walked in, you take Daryl no matter what. It's an easy call. There's a couple musicians where it doesn't matter. Yes, that's the one.
Yeah, it's so crazy watching those old YouTube videos of the time when you were in the band and seeing him play solos, all the way up to playing a solo in Damage Plan, and it's just the same kid, just years apart. It's so amazing to watch.
Some of the songs that I'm mixing right now are from, I'm going to say they're from like 92.
Okay.
And recently I found a cassette demo of one of those songs that Daryl did for me. I had given Daryl a cassette with keyboard drums and keyboard bass. And then I'd given Daryl, and on this tape, it's Daryl. Daryl overdubbed all these guitar parts. And I found the tape recently, and I'm working on it a little bit, thinking of putting it out with the song that we did, because to be able to hear Daryl, it is so inspiring, because, Daryl just recorded guitars into a little 4-track cassette and sub-mixed them all down, but you can still tell what it is, and it's so, it was so inspiring to kind of have him come out of the speakers again, because I hadn't heard the tape in, 25 years. So it was a really cool thing that I'm hoping to be able to share with everybody. So that's just a new thing that's just kind of come to the fore.
Wow, that would be great to hear. And it's definitely one of those things where it even kind of ties back to what I said at the beginning. His guitar solos, even on Metal Magic and Projects in the Jungle, just come through so well. And it's the player, not the recording equipment type stuff. You can always you can't, without a better word, polish a turd or something. Dimebag playing through a 10-watt amp into a cassette deck is going to sound better than most best produced albums.
That's exactly that's exactly how it feels.
Yeah.
And he was a unique artist, and feel very fortunate and lucky to have got to play with him on stage, and how lucky I am to have got to share that. Just an amazing artist.
Wikipedia says that you played with Rex in about 2010. Is that the last time you've seen him and played with him?
Rex did a band. Rex did a record back then with Lance Harville, Arms of the Sun, I think I'm right. And they did a show, their first show in Dallas, and I was in town then, and they had me get up, and they had learned 2 old Pantera songs. And we got up and jammed them, and it was so cool. I hadn't played those songs since with Daryl. And yeah, that was a really great night. I think those are on YouTube.
Oh, wow. I have to check those out.
Yeah, that was at the Lakewood with Arms of the Sun. I think we did All Over Tonight and Come On Eyes. It was pretty badass. And that was cool. I think that's the last time I've seen Rex. I talk to Rex every now and then. He'll give me a call. I'll give him a call once every year or so, and we will touch base. I haven't talked to him in a while, but I do every now and then. With
the internet and being out there with Facebook and stuff like that, I mean, how often do you get hit up by like idiots like me that, want to talk about the old days? It's
always a pleasure. Some people are a little more intense than others. But I will tell you this, whenever I'm back in Dallas, everybody wants to tell me their Pantera stories, and it's always good for a couple drinks at every bar. So, like I said, I'm really proud of the short time that I was with them to get to be part of the tiny part of the history of the band. But there's definitely still a lot of passion out there, which I'm so thankful for, that, keeping the music alive.
Yeah, and I think that's what this podcast is going to kind of bring in, because obviously I want to get fan perspectives and crew members and things like that. And, obviously your perspective too, because there's this such a huge universe when it comes to Pantera, because they had so many people, they made the crew famous, and they made everybody around them a part of the band, and it wasn't just the 4 people on stage.
Very big family type project.
Yes, absolutely. All right, Wham. Well, the one question I'm going to ask everybody, and you can use it from your time in the band or any time in the band, but what is your go-to favorite Pantera song?
Mouth for War.
Because of the memories you have with Dime with that?
100%. Plus, I think it's so badass. I mean, I saw their tours after that. I think the album after that, I seen them, but yeah, great. I love the whole album. But that song, that's the one for me, because I think of Daryl, and he was skinny. But skinny air guitar in the limo, play me that song off of a cassette. That's my favorite Pantera song.
Well, Terry, man, thank you so much for taking the time tonight. And just let everybody know how they can find you and follow follow all of your musical endeavors online.
I guess I'm on Facebook, my name. I probably have lots of records on iTunes. Terry Glaze, Lord Tracy, Raised by Gods. Those are the main ones. But you can go to my webpage, terryglaze.com, and my discography's up there. And I'm just lucky guy in the world. I get to play music every day, and I feel so blessed to continue to be creative every day. And I hope I get to keep going for a long time.
Any reason the first Lord Tracy album is not on Spotify?
Well, MCA owns that album, and I think the law is it has to be 35 years before I can reissue it. I think that's right. And so my plan is to reissue that album in 2024. I think that's the law. They control it, and I can't re-release it yet. But I think I can put it out in myself with no repercussions. So 4 more years, hopefully we'll get it out there.
Well, very good. And then hopefully also we can get some of those early, your era Pantera records out. And, even though, like we said, the first 4 albums, get those out and, mixed, mastered, and make them sound really good, because I think everybody needs those.
It'd be so cool to get, Rex and Phil together and put together a big box with all kinds of photos and stuff from back then to show, the whole process of how they got to become, what they became. And it would be so cool. I would love to see a lot of that stuff too. There are so many friends and fans that have all these photographs from the day that I don't have, that I'd love to share that with all the fans. And also, I'm a big fan myself. I'd love to see that stuff. So maybe one of these days, be able to get everybody together and put out a proper, really cool, special box set.
It would be very cool. Well, Terry, man, thank you so much for your time today.
You got it. You be safe out there. I hope I talk to you soon.
Oh, you definitely will. Huge thank you to Terry Glaze for taking the time for coming on the debut episode of Drag the Waters. That was a lot of fun. Definitely we'll have him on in the future to talk about other musical endeavors that he has going on. It was one of those interviews where the interview was about 35 minutes, and then we talked for about another 35 minutes afterwards, and what a cool guy, what a cool, great guest to have on the first episode of Drag the Waters. A few more interviews already done. This podcast will be interviews with people that were in the band, around the band, and even just fans of the band that went on to do musical things of their own. So it's going to be a wide net that I will be casting. So again, thank you guys for checking it out. Spread the word. And until next time, I've been Joshua Toomey. This is Drag the Waters.
Now listen here. When we came on this goddamn stage, we said we are the kings of metal, and I do believe that fucking wholeheartedly, because I tell you right now, we are the ones that never let you down and fucking sold out on you and kissed ass to the goddamn fucking status quo. We're a heavy metal band, man. We're a fucking heavy metal band. And goddamn, we're great. Let's hear it. Oh shit, we're awesome. Goddamn it.